I do want to show you a few live pictures that we have as well on the ground as we're watching all of this unfold there as well. This is a live look taking you out to that right there in Tel Aviv. We've been really watching the skies as well as watching and monitoring not only areas in Tel Aviv, but also areas like this. This is a live look that we have there in Beirut. There have been several strikes that have been happening throughout the region as well. And so we do want to give you this update that we have there from Fox News saying this. The Israeli military spokesperson confirmed to them today with Fox News Digital that multiple unmanned aerial vehicles, also known as UAVs, have been launched into Israel from Iraqi territory since the start of this conflict with Iran in order to eradicate the Islamic Republic of Iran's illicit nuclear weapons facilities. And so a lot more information is coming out from how this campaign is ongoing. But we also have this from President Trump speaking on Truth Social today, saying there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. After that, the selection of a great and acceptable leader. We and many of our wonderful and very brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again. He put in parentheses, MAGA, saying thank you for your attention to this matter. And this is what President Trump did post a bit earlier today. And so when it comes down to all of these developments that are happening there in the Middle East and understanding what we're on the brink of as well, I do want to now continue that conversation, bringing in Peter Doran here with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks for having me, Christina.
Well, we just got into a bit of the new information that's come down within the last hour or so about this ongoing conflict there in the Middle East. But I want to start with the statement that President Trump made earlier today, saying that he's accepting seemingly nothing but a full and unconditional surrender from Iran. I first want to get your thoughts in response to that statement that the president made.
Well, President Trump is issuing this maximalist demand because the United States and Israel are winning, Christina. Together, we are entombing Iran's nuclear program. We're entombing the remaining leadership of the Islamic Republic and dismantling their missile program. You want a wow number, Christina? 86%. Since the start of this operation, that strikes by the Islamic Republic on Gulf neighbors and Israel and every other country in the region, they are down by 86%. This shows the significant progress the U.S. has made, and President Trump, frankly, is trying to avoid more killing, and that's why he's issuing his demand for unconditional surrender.
I have to ask you, Peter, we do know that President Trump made those remarks on social media just a few hours after Iran's president announced that unspecified countries had begun mediation efforts. This was sort of seemingly trying to make an announcement about a diplomatic end to some of this conflict. How does this sort of tie in as we're watching how both of these countries will now continue to respond?
Well, the big question is who is left for us to negotiate with? We've seen a systemic decapitation strike on this terrible, brutal regime. You have to wonder who's left. But more important than that, President Trump has been clear. He wants a change in the government. He wants to eliminate the ability of the Islamic Republic's capabilities, let's say, to strike its neighbors with missiles and drones, and there shall no longer be any nuclear weapons program. It was rather shocking, Christina, to hear Special Envoy Witkoff say in public that he was told by the Iranian side during their negotiations they have enough material to create 11 nuclear bombs. That red line has been very clear from President Trump from the beginning. And so in asking and entertaining perhaps an end to this regime, that makes sense. But let's not mistake winning for negotiations. Right now, we are dismantling this regime. And I think President Trump is trying to give whoever is left a way out while keeping their life.
All right, and we're still continuing to look at some of the video footage that's also been released. It's interesting to see how all of these dynamics play together, especially as we talk about Israel's effort with here with the United States in this campaign. I do want to put this up on the screen as well because we have an update there from Iranian state media that's being reported by the Associated Press, saying this, that Iran has now announced that it's launching its latest wave of missiles now targeting Israel. Iran state television showed this footage that you're now seeing there on your screen of what's being called a mass launch of ballistic missiles and showing various missiles being fired into the sky. Now, this report says that the launch marks the 22nd wave of what's being called Operation True Promise 4. Iran's large-scale military operations now targeting Israeli and U.S. military strategic sites across the Middle East. And so I want to get your reaction to seeing this. We're now getting some footage there from Iranian state media. I'm not saying that that's the most reliable source that we continue to rely on here on Live Now from Fox, but it is interesting to see what they're also putting out as well, saying that this is their 22nd wave amid this ongoing conflict. What do you pull from them continuing to now strike back?
Well, when you look at the numbers, Christina, the numbers of tactical missiles that the Iranian regime has thrown at its neighbors, thrown at U.S. bases in Israel, you do see an increase from, say, the summer during Operation Midnight Hammer. But here's the important point. By going after not the arrow, but the archer, by going after the launchers, the remaining launchers that Iran still possesses, the United States and our great ally Israel are essentially preventing more of these strikes. Sure, the Iranian regime can throw up some video online, but what we're seeing on the ground is that the missile defenses are holding. Every once in a while, you are going to get what's known as a leaker, a warhead or a rocket that manages to break through, but the overall human cost, the civilian death count as a result of Iran's strikeout strategy has been surprisingly and thankfully limited. And that's a good thing.
And so we're still continuing to monitor those live looks there in the region, including this shot that we have there in Tel Aviv. And so as you've been talking about, we've been watching the skies as well, not only there over Israel. I do want to put this up on the screen. It's a live vantage point that we also have in Beirut. Let's talk about how all of this comes together with the Lebanese side of things as well. So we do know that Israel is also now pursuing an expansion of that war into Lebanon, pounding the capital of Beirut after ordering this evacuation in the series. They're launching these new attacks, they say, against Hezbollah, which is based within the country. Can you sort of speak to what we're watching as all of this is unfolding?
Well, what we're seeing here is what we can call the war within the war. So if we step back for a moment, we can see the operation by the United States and Israel against Iran. And Iran is simultaneously unleashing its terrorist proxy Hezbollah against Israel, against civilian targets. Every time Hezbollah sees one of those major missiles launched from Iran, they launch their own rockets and their own drones against civilians. So Israel is conducting, we can think of it this way. They are finishing unfinished business. Since 2024, there was a peace agreement, a ceasefire, if you will, with Hezbollah. Hezbollah has now broken that peace, and Israel has decided it is going to finally dismantle the remaining terrorist infrastructure left in Lebanon. For many years, decades, Hezbollah has existed as almost a parallel government alongside the legitimate government in Lebanon. And what we're seeing now is that the government in Lebanon, in Beirut, is saying, we don't want this anymore. Hezbollah is running out of space. Israel is finishing the job. We will see how this ends. But that video you're seeing there from Beirut, it's important to understand this is the remaining vestige of one of the major threats facing Israel and the United States in the region.
It's always good to kind of see all of this unfold as well from some of the video footage that's fed into our newsroom. But as you touched on, this is a very long history that Hezbollah has had with the Iranian government. It is important to note that they've been deemed as a terrorist organization by several others, not just Israel, not just the United States, but several other countries have been watching what's happened there in the region at their hands.
That's right. And even our ally France is intervening. Even the government in Paris is saying, okay, enough is enough. We can no longer allow Hezbollah to exist as a parallel governing structure in Lebanon. Uh, I would note again, Israel continues to be extremely restrained in its targeting. They issued a warning to civilians saying, evacuate now. We don't want to kill innocent bystanders here. We're going after the remaining terrorist infrastructure that exists in Beirut. And even the government in Lebanon is saying we can no longer allow Hezbollah to have weapons. This is big. Whether or not Israel is able to finish its war within the war, we don't know yet. Whether or not they're overstretched, we have yet to see. But for now, all fronts and all signs show that the United States and Israel are winning this conflict.
Let's discuss some of the other outside factors that are also playing a role here. It has been reported by our partner there with Reuters that Russia is potentially providing insight to Iran about where the United States has some of those places and other important strategy sites in the Middle East in order to help them in some of their sites. It was also, though, reported that the Israeli military said that they had destroyed 80% of Iran's air defense systems. How do these two things play a role simultaneously? The Russia impact as well as the decimation that Israel says it has done so far there in the region.
Well, that's the big story for today. Christina, let's think about this. Russian intelligence officers are assisting the Iranian regime in targeting Americans across the Gulf and the Middle East. Think about what that means. Russia is attempting to assist the Iranians in killing American servicemen and diplomats. This is a significant development if true, and I believe the Washington Post is very likely onto a significant story here. It has major ramifications for President Trump's ability to negotiate with Moscow peace in the Ukraine war, but Russia's actions here show that Vladimir Putin has no interest ultimately in resolving his war in Ukraine or in seeing the United States prevail in Iran. Makes sense. He's about to lose one of his major partners in the Middle East, and the United States and our allies must never forget that.
All right. And so that's not the only thing that we're watching and listening into, as we're even talking about President Trump once again. Moving ahead, we do know that the president has been very loud and explicit in saying that he wants to have some input in who is the next leader there in Iran. When it comes down to those sort of conversations, how does that work between a nation who is possibly trying to rebuild and what comes next as far as those negotiations?
Well, it very much looks like President Trump is announcing the next season of The Apprentice, Tehran edition, Christina. But more important than that, what we are seeing is that because the United States has put so much effort into toppling and destroying, taking apart this brutal regime in Iran, the president wants to say and how the post-war country is governed. That makes a lot of sense, but at the end of the day, this is a question that must fall to the people of Iran. A lot of folks are looking at different alternatives to the current regime. Obviously, I'm sure Israel has a preference. The United States has a preference. The Iranian diaspora has a preference. But what we want to see is perhaps a transition government, a bridge government that can facilitate democratic elections and give this choice to the Iranian people. That's what President Trump said at the start of this operation. This is your last chance, perhaps for a generation. Take control of your own future.
I'm glad you're bringing up the diaspora as well, because they've been very vocal in the wake of some of these attacks. We've seen celebrations reaching United States cities here as well on both coasts, from New York to LA as of last week. And so when it comes to how they're feeling, this has been a long time coming for so many who wanted to see change there in Iran.
Well, this was one of the more significant developments that has occurred. I mean, imagine Iranian Americans marching through Georgetown in Washington or Los Angeles chanting USA, USA. More than that, residents in Tehran are getting onto the rooftops of their buildings. They're standing on mountaintops, looking at their own country being bombed and cheering because they understand what everyone else knows. The target here is not the people of Iran, it's the regime that has been oppressing them for decades and waging a multi-decade war against the United States. Many people have said that President Trump is pursuing a war of choice, and they're half right. because he has decided that he is going to end the almost 50-year war that this regime has waged against the United States. If successful, we stand on the brink of perhaps a more peaceful, predictable, and attractive Middle East. This is what could be achieved if all trends continue in their current direction.
And we do want to continue to also acknowledge those who've lost their lives in this as well. I want to put this up on the screen just quickly here. We've continued to see some of these names and faces put out to those who have been a part of this operation Epic Fury that's happening in the Middle East. Those are just 4. There are 6 total U.S. service members who have been killed in some of these strikes. And I also want to put this up on the screen. This is from the IDF. They just put this out on their X account saying this: the IAF completed an additional wave of strikes against terror targets there in the district in Beirut. Among those targets struck, saying that an IRGC Air Force Commander Center, a command center used by Hezbollah Navy unit, as well as a command center used by Hezbollah's financial unit as well. So a lot of strikes there that seemingly are targeted. I think this is sort of confirming what we've been speaking about so far.
That's right. The important words there are Hezbollah's financial unit. These are the bankers for this terrorist organization. This is a vestige of this group that has evaded elimination so far. It was an expected move by the IDF to go after, we'll call it Hezbollah's bankers. So to have them confirm, yes, we are targeting their financial actors, this is encouraging. It's very hard to run a terrorist organization if you don't have any money and there's no one left to facilitate financial transactions. Those are the 3 most important words that I see in this statement.
All right, it'll continue to be interesting as we're watching all of this unfold. Peter, while I have you, my last question is going to be for some of those other countries there in the region. We've lightly mentioned Iraq. Afghanistan is also going to continue to have a role as they're all in the same area where this fighting is ongoing. What else are you watching at this point?
Well, Christina, I'm watching the remarkable change that we've seen from our Gulf allies and partners and Saudi Arabia. Think about this. 14 months ago, it would have been unimaginable to see Saudi Arabia getting off the sidelines and lining up with Israel and the United States against Iranian terrorist aggression against them. We are on the precipice here of potentially a new Middle East, one where Saudi Arabia even joins the Abraham Accords, along with other Arab and Muslim states. This is clearly the goal that President Trump is pursuing. He's not there yet, but all trends so far are turning up positive for the U.S. and our great ally, Israel.
All right, so we certainly appreciate Peter for joining us here on Live Now from Fox as we'll continue to keep our eyes on some of this region. Live looks there as well as continuing to break down the very latest as it comes down as well. Thanks so much, Peter.
Thank you.